Hey guys, tonight we follow the sound of wind-stirred feathers and sandal straps tightening. You're standing on the edge of dawn, somewhere between dream and memory, as a faint shimmer curls upward from Mount Olympus like steam from a hot bath. Clouds coil beneath you in cottony silence. The sun hasn't committed to rising yet, and in this stillness, something urgent begins to stir. You don't wake up like a normal person. No groggy stretches or pillow lines on your face. You snap to full awareness because when you're Hermes, the messenger god sleep never sticks long, especially not when Zeus has called for you at this hour. The first light of the day stretches like fingers over the peaks, but what you notice first is the scroll. Not the sun, not the thunder mutter of Zeus in the background, but that little weightless scroll. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, and let us know where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now dim the lights and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You glance at the scroll in your hand. It's absurdly light. No seal, no script, not even the usual Zeus-style melodrama to be opened by mortal with flaming destiny or whatever he usually likes to stamp in gold. Instead, just a curl of papyrus, soft, almost warm, like it's breathing. You raise an eyebrow and tilt your head like only a divine trickster can. Cute, you mutter, a mystery message from my dad. What could possibly go wrong? Now, if this were any other day, you'd already be halfway across the known world by now, delivering prophecies, stealing goats, flirting with shepherds. But something about this particular message slows you down. You haven't even started moving, and yet you already feel like you're late. Above you, Zeus stands tall and unbothered hands folded behind his back, staring into a storm that hasn't formed yet. You know that posture.
It means I've done something I'll regret later, but I'll act like it was noble. His beard is extra fluffy this morning. That's not a good sign. Don't open it, he says without turning. His voice rumbles low like a warning disguised as a suggestion. You squint. What's in it? He doesn't answer. Instead, he walks into a cloud and disappears. Typical. You try the usual tricks, tilting the scroll in the light, sniffing it, even tossing it in the air to see if it glows. Don't laugh, some of them do. Nothing. But the oddest part, you don't feel the usual zing of command. Most divine messages have this built-in tingle that nudges you toward their target like a magical GPS. This one, nothing. It just sits in your hand, quiet, still, a little too still, and then the scroll twitches, only slightly, like a breath caught in a throat. You frown. Right, you say. Let's get this over with. So you begin to descend from Olympus.
The path unwinds below your feet with its usual shimmer, but this time the clouds feel heavier. You pass the carved faces of old gods on the cliffside, some of them forgotten, some erased, some just watching. One has its mouth open wide in a scream no one hears anymore. You shiver. Halfway down, a dragonfly zips by and the scroll stirs again. That's when you realize it's reacting to motion. Not yours, but the world's, the wind, the light, the tiny tremble of history beneath your toes. You mutter, okay, now it's getting weird. Historians still argue whether Hermes truly invented writing or simply made it fashionable. Either way, you know, a blank scroll that shouldn't be blank. This isn't ignorance, it's silence. And silence, when written, is usually the loudest message of all. By the time you reach the edge of Olympus, your usual ease has worn thin. Your sandals are laced tight, your caduceus is humming with low energy, and you've broken a rule you didn't even know existed. You're hesitating. You, Hermes hesitating. You take one last glance behind you at the swirling gold of Olympus, at the faces in the clouds, at the soft thunder roll of a sky pretending not to know what's coming. And you whisper, "All right then, message. Wherever you're going, I hope they're in the mood for trouble, because you can already tell this won't be a quick delivery. This will be the one you never forget." You fly low now, skimming over the silvered tops of olive trees, the wind pulling at your cloak like an impatient toddler. Normally, the thrill of speed and sky is your joyride, your therapy. But today the skies feel different. Not angry, just watchful. Like the whole world is waiting for you to mess up. As you pass the final foothills of Olympus, something catches in your chest. A tug.
Not a physical yank, not like when Apollo once used a sunbeam to drag you back mid-delivery because you'd forgotten to sign the prophecy, but a strange inner catch, like the scroll is pulling at your memory. You clutch it tighter and descend. Your sandals kiss the dusty earth just outside the gates of Olympus's lower court, a place few mortals know and even fewer gods bother to visit. Here, under the hanging vines and marble arches, the gods gather when things need to be said in private. Things that shouldn't echo up to the stars. This morning, the air is thick with murmurs. You step inside. Immediately the whispering hushes. Around the great hall they stand Athena leaning coolly against her spear. Hera, with a look on her face like she's just smelled treason baking in the oven. Dionysus sipping from a goblet that seems to refill itself, even when he's not looking. A few lesser gods hang near the back nemesis Hecate, even Iris, whom you rarely see outside of rainstorms.
You clear your throat and give your best godly smile. Did I miss brunch? No one laughs, not even Dionysus. That's when you know, really, no, this message is bad news. Hera narrows her eyes. He gave it to you. You lift the scroll. Technically, yes. Unless this is a shared custody thing and I forgot the paperwork. Her gaze doesn't flinch. He didn't tell you what it was. Wouldn't be fun if he did. Athena steps forward, her eyes grey and glinting, scan the scroll like it might start leaking poison. There are messages, she says slowly, that were never meant to be delivered. Not by mortal, not by God, not even by you. You smirk, but it doesn't quite stick. Oh, that's the nicest almost compliment I've gotten all decade. But your fingers are trembling, because the scroll has started to hum again. This time they all hear it, a soft vibration like bees murmuring behind stone, the sort of sound you feel in your jawbone, like a memory you don't remember choosing to forget. You ask, "Anyone want to tell me what this is before I go knocking on doors?" Hera actually looks tired, which is terrifying. The Queen of Olympus doesn't do tired. Her fatigue is the kind of thing you see right before a kingdom collapses. She says he's rewriting the message again. You blink. Who is? She nods upward, not to Zeus exactly, but to the vastness beyond him. The scroll quivers like a struck tuning fork. You stare at it, hoping it will make sense. Instead, your eyes drift to Athena. Why does it feel like I've done this before? She doesn't answer. She just stares at you, like she's watching something fall apart inside your chest. Dionysus raises his cup and says, "If he sends it to Hermes, it means it has to look like it's going somewhere, but it's not. It never is." You say you're all talking like this scroll is cursed. No one disagrees. From the back, Nemesis chuckles dryly. Not cursed, just recursive. Quirky tidbit of the day. The gods of Olympus once tried to send a message backward through time using the winds of Boreas the North Wind. The result, a flock of chickens in Sparta started quoting Sappho loudly at midnight. So, yeah. Olympian communication experiments don't exactly have a clean track record. You step back toward the door. I'm just the messenger. If no one wants it delivered, I'll just... Too late, Athena interrupts. You've touched it. You're in it now. You look down at your hand. The scroll has left a faint shimmer where it touched your palm like a burn made of moonlight. Great. So now you're not just carrying a potentially cosmic booby trap, you're bonded to it. You glance around the silent room. Even Hecate, goddess of thresholds and crossroads, has gone pale. That's never a good sign. You sigh. Well, you mutter. Guess I'll deliver it anyway.
Maybe the next god will be less dramatic about it. You turn wings, flexing, preparing to launch into the sky. But just before you take off, you hear Hera's voice behind you. "Be careful, messenger," she says. You pause. Hera never says be careful. Why, you ask? She doesn't meet your eyes, because this time she says softly, the message might be about you. The scroll sits in your satchel like a quiet heart, beating once every time you blink too slowly. You're flying again, but slower than usual, tracing lazy arcs over Thessaly's hills and the soft, fog-swept rivers that curve like serpents toward the sea. You keep adjusting your flight pattern, west, then south, then back north. There's no tug, no divine pull, no destination whispering in your ear like usual. This message doesn't want to be delivered. It's not like Hermes to dawdle. You invented shortcuts for Olympus's sake. You once mapped the Underworld's back alleys just to make Karen jealous. But now, you stall. Finally, you land beneath a gnarled fig tree outside a ruined shrine. No worshippers left, just dust, wind, and one goat skull with a daisy sprouting from the eye socket. It smells faintly of time and long-forgotten fear. You pull the scroll out again. Still blank? Still humming? You rotate it slowly in your hands like maybe, just maybe it'll reveal something if you squint hard enough or whisper just the right insult. Nothing. Then flick. It pulses once. A soft golden light rolls across the parchment like ripples on a pond. But there's no writing, not even invisible ink shenanigans. You tilt your head, and then a sound, faint, barely there. A single note like a sigh, carried by bees. You jump back, nearly knocking into the fig tree. Okay, you mutter. That was new. The scroll quiets. For a moment you wonder if you imagined it. Maybe it's just the wind, or a weird olive grove echo, or maybe the daisy goat is laughing at you. But you've carried thousands of messages, prophecies sealed with dragonfire, secret deals between gods and kings, warnings bound in shadow and whispers, and none of them ever sounded alive. You squint. What are you exactly? No answer. You consider heading to Delphi, but the oracle's temple collapsed 2 decades ago during that unfortunate business with the singing tortoise. Historians still argue whether the temple fell due to an earthquake, or because Apollo insisted on turning the pillars into musical instruments. You sigh and sit cross-legged on the dry earth. You take a deep breath, then you say something you've never said to a scroll before. Okay, if you won't show me where you're going, then show me where you've been. The scroll pulses again, and something inside your head shifts. It's not a vision exactly, not the clean, golden memory flashes you're used to when gods meddle with your thoughts. This is rougher, grainier,
like an old dream that got wet and dried in the sun. You see a cave of silver smoke, a crowd chanting in a language that's not Greek, not mortal, not even divine. You hear a bell without a ringer, a laugh that ends in a scream, someone calling your name in reverse. You feel known. And then, like a snapped string, it's gone. You lurch forward and gasp. The fig tree cracks behind you. A branch breaks off and lands beside you with a thump. It's blackened, burnt. By what you don't know, you blink and stare at your hands. They're shaking, so that's what we're doing now, huh? Hallucinations? Psychic? Shockwaves? Great. Maybe next it'll start singing show tunes. You reach into your bag for ambrosia, nothing like fermented sunlight to steady the nerves, but instead your hand brushes something cold, not yours. You pull it out. It's a small token, a coin, old, too old. You haven't seen one like this since the day you first stole Apollo's sun chariot just to see if it would turn left. You flip it over. One side bears your symbol, your sandals. The other, a blank face, no features, just the shape of a head, without eyes, nose or mouth, like the coin forgot who it was supposed to be. You look at the scroll again, and now it's warm. So very warm. Quirky fact. The first scroll ever sent by a god was a joke, literally. Dionysus scribbled a riddle on olive bark and had it delivered to a mortal playwright. The mortal misread it, staged it as a tragedy, and the audience wept for 3 days. Dionysus laughed so hard he invented hangovers. But this is no joke. You feel it now, subtle but sure. The scroll is pulling again, not to a person, not to a place, but to a pattern. It's not guiding you forward. It's circling, looping, every moment like a breath that never finishes. Something about it makes your skin prickle beneath your cloak. And suddenly you realize the awful truth. This message, you may have already tried to deliver it before and failed. You try not to panic, but let's be real, there's nothing quite like the creeping suspicion that time has looped you like an anxious Ouroboros. You hover above the treetops for a moment, heart drumming to the same strange rhythm the scroll keeps pulsing. You know what déjà vu feels like. You invented the concept of déjà vu, but this feels like something deeper. You fly faster, leaving the fig grove and the whispering earth behind. Below, goats scatter. Above, the sky stretches on too blue, too perfect. The kind of sky that hides things in plain sight. You try to remember the last time you couldn't remember. Has this happened before? Has this message already been carried, lost, buried? There's one place to check. One gatekeeper who always knows more than he says. You grit your teeth and descend. Welcome to the Underworld. The entrance is quieter than usual. No ferryman's oar sloshing through black water. No muttering shades waiting their turn. Just the smell of damp stone and memory. You call out once, no answer. Twice, still nothing. Then the gates groan open, slow, deliberate, like they're annoyed at being disturbed. You step through sandals barely touching the obsidian floor. The cold here is ancient, not icy, just tired. A kind of stillness that seeps into your joints, and waiting there at the edge of shadow is Hades. He's not dressed in black velvet or skulls or anything so dramatic. He's in a simple grey robe, sipping something from a bone cup. Looks like pomegranate juice. You really hope it's pomegranate juice. He sees you, sighs, no. You blink, no what, no entry. No questions, no scrolls, not this time. You raise an eyebrow. You didn't even let me ask. You didn't have to. He gestures to the scroll. It's humming, and I don't let humming things in anymore. You glance down. Sure enough, it's vibrating again, Louder now, not like music, more like a warning. I just need answers, you say. You won't like 'em. Since when do I like anything? Hades gives you a long look. Last time you came here with that scroll, 3 rivers changed direction and one soul got up and walked out. I had to hire extra dogs. You stare. Last time he nods. Or the time before that. Hard to say. This thing keeps looping. That cold twist in your gut tightens. What does it want? Not what Hades says, stepping closer. Who? The scroll pulses in your hand like it heard him. You try to press further, but a wall of shadow rises behind Hades, not threatening, just firm and final. You can't deliver it here, he says. Not now, maybe not ever. You take a step back, unwilling to test his patience or his army of spectral Rottweilers, but just as you turn to leave, Hades calls out. It's not the message that's dangerous, Hermes. You pause. It's the memory it unlocks. You nod once, then lift into the grey-tinted air. Behind you, the gates close with a sigh. Historical footnote. In a lesser-known fragment of Orphic poetry, Hermes is described not just as the soul guide, but as the memory keeper. Some scholars interpret this as symbolic. Others claim Hermes once carried a scroll so powerful it erased his own past. The scroll you're holding now, yeah, that one. You rise into daylight again, blinking against the sun's burn. You want to scream, or drop the scroll into the ocean, or both, but you know better. Even if you tried to lose it, it would come back. So instead, you decide to seek out someone who might have answers the gods won't admit. The sacred olive grove of Athena lies ahead. You know the path by heart, twisting roots and thick branches forming natural arches, the scent of sage and logic heavy in the air. You land beneath a column of sunlight. The trees rustle not with wind, but awareness. And there she is, Athena. She steps from behind a pillar like she's always been there. Probably has. You offer a mock bow.
Your brilliance. Do you know what this scroll actually is? She eyes it and her mouth tightens. Then finally she says, a whisper made physical. That's not helpful. She crosses her arms. It's a message that changes based on who carries it. It adapts, learns, and sometimes forgets. You flinch. It forgets. She meets your gaze, or it makes you forget. The scroll pulses again, faster this time. You hold it tighter, and for a second, just a blink, you see something behind Athena. A face. Yours. But older. Hollow-eyed, clutching the same scroll with bleeding hands. Then it's gone, and you realize with a slow, sinking horror, you may not be carrying the message. You may be the message. You don't say anything for a long time. You just stand there in Athena's grove, feeling the scroll vibrate gently in your hand like a song you can't quite place.
You're still not sure if that vision behind her, your older self, was real, or just a leftover spark from whatever mind game the scroll is playing. Either way, it leaves a bitter taste in your mouth, like copper and forgotten oaths. Athena studies your silence. You saw something, didn't you? You nod slowly. I saw me, or someone wearing me, older. Worn down. She doesn't look surprised. It's never comforting. You're not the first to carry it, she says. But you're the only one who ever came back. Sort of. You look up sharply. Sort of her eyes narrow. You've been rewritten before Hermes. That scroll, whatever it truly is, feeds on certainty. Yours, mine, even history's. Every time you try to deliver it, something changes. A river flows differently. A memory disappears. A war never starts. And I forget each time, maybe, she says. Or maybe you choose to forget. You let out a short, humorless laugh. How very me. A breeze stirs the trees, and for a moment the sunlight through the olive branches forms the shape of a doorway. Then it's gone. You sit down on a stone, suddenly feeling very, very mortal. Who made this, you ask softly. No one knows, Athena replies. Zeus claims it came to him in a dream, but it's older than Olympus, older than language even, a message from a time before messages. You glance down at it again, still blank, still pulsing, still waiting. Athena kneels beside you, her voice gentler now. Some of us think it's a test, a divine recursion. The message isn't what's written, it's the burden of carrying something that can't be known. It sounds poetic, you mutter. That's because I said it, she smirks. If Ares said it, he'd grunt and punch a tree. You can't help but chuckle, just a little. Why me, you ask? She stands and dusts off her armor. Because you're the only god who never stops moving. You change, adapt, survive. If anyone can deliver it without unraveling, it's you. You nod. But deep down you feel the truth wriggling like a fish in your stomach. This message isn't meant to be delivered, it's meant to trap the messenger. Quirky tidbit. Hermes once invented a musical scale that made people remember dreams they never had. He played it for 2 hours and caused a minor cult uprising in Crete. They're still dancing, no one's sure why. You stand shoulders tense, gaze fixed on the horizon. All right, you say, let's try a new route. Athena raises an eyebrow. Where? Where all lost things go, you reply. The oracle's abandoned shrine, the one no one visits anymore. Athena's smile fades. Hermes, that shrine collapsed centuries ago. It's gone. You grin, so am I apparently. And just like that, you take off sandals, sparking against air wind, slicing past your ears. The journey is longer than it should be. The world below changes strangely as you fly. Rivers are in the wrong places, cities too quiet. At one point you pass a field full of statues, all facing west, their faces blank, smooth, like the coin, like the scroll. You shudder and press onward. Eventually you arrive at a jagged cliff, overlooking a sea you don't recognize. The air is thick with salt and static. And there it is, the oracle's shrine, or what's left of it. No roof, no columns, just a circle of stones and a shallow pool that glows faintly green even in daylight. You land beside it and step forward. The scroll pulses once, then again you feel it tighten in your hand. A deep, low note echoes from the pool, and then slowly the scroll begins to open. You didn't will it to. It just does. 1 inch, 2, 3. But still no writing. Just a strange shimmering light, and a scent you haven't smelled in millennia. Burnt cedar and starlight. You look up. The shrine is gone. The world has gone silent.
And then from behind you, a voice says, "Hello again, messenger." You turn, there's no one there, just a reflection in the pool. Of you. But this version of you, he looks tired. So very tired. You stare into the pool, it stares back. Well, technically you stare back, but not as you are now. The reflection is older, your hair is longer streaked with something silvery that isn't divine shimmer. Your eyes, usually bright and quick, like foxfire, are dull, clouded, and worst of all, your smile is gone. He says nothing, neither do you. The scroll pulses again. The reflection tilts its head, and finally, the older version of you speaks. You're behind. You frown. Behind what? Behind yourself. You blink. That's unhelpfully cryptic. The reflection smirks faintly. Well, I had a few centuries to rehearse. You crouch near the glowing water hand, clutching the scroll like it might fly off if you loosen your grip. So you're me from...
What a possible future. A failed loop or just a very dramatic prophecy. Yes, the reflection says. You groan. Fantastic. The older you lifts a hand toward the surface, palm open, fingers trembling slightly. You've carried the message farther than I ever did, which means either we're nearing the end or it's about to reset again. You narrow your eyes. Reset to what? To forgetting, the reflection says softly. To that moment when you feel something slip behind your eyes, and suddenly you're flying over fields again like nothing ever happened. You sit down beside the pool, trying to ignore how the stones beneath you feel warmer than the air, like they've absorbed the thoughts of those who sat here before, and there have been many. Do you remember what it says, you ask? The reflection's eyes darken. Yes. And no, it's like trying to recall the first dream you ever had. Every time I get close, it flutters away. But you kept trying. The reflection laughs once bitter and light. Of course, that's the curse. That's why we were chosen. Not because we can deliver it, but because we won't stop trying. You stare into the green-lit water and say quietly, "Then maybe the message isn't a message at all." Your reflection nods. You both say it at the same time, "Maybe we are." Historians still argue whether Hermes ever had temples of his own or simply stole other gods' shrines with clever signage and fresher wine offerings. Some fringe theories even claim his most sacred site is one that moves never in the same place twice, like a divine pop-up shop. If that's true, you might be sitting in it now. Suddenly the scroll snaps fully open. You leap back as the parchment hovers above the pool, unfurling into a slow spiral mid-air. Still blank, but glowing now, not gold, but that same eerie green from the water below. It hums, louder. A deep note like the final chord of a song no one remembers starting. Then it begins to pull. Not your body, but your thoughts. Memories begin to flicker in your mind. Old paths walked temples, visited mortals whose names you should know. A war that never made it into poetry. A secret pact between gods and something before gods. The feeling of fire on your wings, and one image, a face you've never seen but somehow love. A mortal woman, standing in a field, laughing, holding out her hand, and in her other hand, the scroll. You stumble back. The reflection is gone. Only your own face stares up now, young, confused, and tired in all the wrong ways. You grab the scroll and roll it tight again, hands trembling. What was that? Who was that? You look around. The shrine is still quiet, but not empty, because now someone's watching. You turn slowly. A figure stands at the edge of the cliff, cloaked, tall face obscured by a white veil that ripples gently in the wind. The scroll pulses in your hand once, sharply, like a heartbeat, skipping a beat.
You call out, "Who are you?" No answer. You take a step forward. Do you know what this is? Still silent, then the figure raises a hand palm outward, and you freeze, because your hand moves too, exactly the same. Same angle, same speed, like a mirror. You lower your arm, so does the figure. You feel a cold sweat trickle down your spine. Then the scroll twitches violently once, twice, and then something inside you clicks. Not in your hand, not your mind, your name. Just for a moment. You forget it. Not Hermes, not the messenger, not trickster, not guide. Just nothing. Then it returns, but your breath is short. The figure is gone. You're alone again. And the message now, it feels heavier than ever. You fly low for a while, not because you need to, but because the wind up high feels like it knows too much. Like it might carry your thoughts away before you're ready to admit them to yourself. The scroll is silent now. No hum, no pulse. Just still.
That's somehow worse. You land on a lonely road somewhere between Delphi and nowhere. A cracked path lined with cypress trees and old statues, their marble faces smoothed into anonymity by wind and time. A perfect place to collect your thoughts, or lose them depending on how your day's going. You sit beneath a crooked olive tree, the branches overhead casting a lace of shadows across your arms. You take a breath, try to slow your racing mind, and then like a casual thunderbolt you drop the scroll. You didn't mean to, it just slips from your fingers like it had been waiting for that one moment of distraction. You swear loudly, don't worry, still PG-13, and scramble to snatch it back. But something has changed. The scroll lies open, not unfurled open, like it chose to open itself, and at the center of the exposed parchment is something. It's not writing, not really, not language, just a shimmer, faint symbols or lines that vanish if you look at them too long, shapes that rearrange when your gaze moves. You can't read them. You can only feel them. You blink once, twice. The lines seem to glow, and for a moment you almost hear a voice, but not in your ears, in your bones. A message without words. You reach out, hesitating. Then you touch the scroll, and the world tilts. The olive tree blinks out of existence. So does the road, the sky, even your body. You're nowhere. But also somewhere very specific. A white space, not bright, not cold, just blank. And standing there in the center of it all is a version of you, again. But this time, you're laughing. Not cruelly, not manically, just wearily. He waves. About time. You raise an eyebrow. We're doing this again. The older you shrugs. Not again, just differently. This version's holding a little longer than the last. You look around. Where is this memory echo carved into the scroll? Every time you touch it at the wrong moment, it drags you back here. How many times more than either of us remembers? Literally. You shake your head. This scroll, it's not just a message. It's a mirror, a trap, a loop, and a compass your other self adds. Just not one that points forward. You're quiet a moment. Then you ask the question you've been avoiding. What's the message? What's so terrible we've forgotten it every time? The older you frowns, then says, it's a name. You blink. That's it. It's your name, but I know my name. Not Hermes, he says, your first name. The one you had before Olympus, before language, before they called you anything. You swallow. There's a sharp ache in your chest now. Something old trying to surface. Something sacred and scary. Why would I forget my own name? Your reflection sighs because it's the only thing strong enough to undo you. Historians still debate the origin of Hermes' name. Some claim it derives from Hermes, a boundary marker. Others say it comes from an older root one that predates Greek altogether. A word for sound or movement or maybe even loss. No one agrees. The uncertainty lingers like the echo of something once shouted across eternity. The blank space begins to fade. The shimmer returns, the lines, the hum, and then you're back beneath the olive tree, gasping, scroll in your lap. It's blank again, but your hand. There's a symbol burned into your palm now, faint, like a scar made of moonlight. You don't recognize it, but it feels familiar. You try to say your name. It catches in your throat, only for a second. But you feel it, that slipping sensation like the floor of your identity just gave an inch. You stand, brush the dust off, pick up the scroll. And for the first time, you don't feel like the messenger anymore. You feel like the message. And that, frankly, is starting to feel like a problem. You fly again, but now each gust of wind feels like a question. Each mountain peak you skim whispers something beneath its breathless air. like even the stone is wondering what you're doing carrying this scroll around, like it's not reprogramming your soul. It's evening now. You land near a stretch of shoreline on the western edge of the Peloponnese. The sea glows lavender beneath a sleepy sky. You don't remember choosing this place, but the scroll twitched in your satchel as you passed, so you trusted it. That's the thing, isn't it? You don't know if it's leading you or luring you. And frankly, you're too tired to care. You step over sea-polished stones and sit on a sand-smooth boulder. You pull the scroll out again. You expect nothing. But the moment you unroll it, music starts. Not actual instruments, more like a tone stitched together from all the regrets you never had time to feel. It vibrates through your teeth, a little melancholic, a little holy, and then a voice. A real one this time.
Did you really think you'd be the one to outrun it? You spin around. Apollo stands nearby, glowing faintly like someone dimmed his setting from sun to sad torchlight. His lyre is slung across his back, his usual golden smile replaced with something heavier. I wasn't running, you say. Apollo snorts. Hermes, you don't walk anywhere. You run before you're even being chased. Fair point. You glance back at the scroll. You know what this is. He steps closer. I've known longer than you have, but never long enough you raise a brow. How poetic. I've been hanging around mortals too much, he says, rolling his eyes. You hold out the scroll. So what's in it? A prophecy, a threat, a wound, he says. One that rewrites whoever carries it. You pause, rewrites into what Apollo doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he lifts his lyre and strums one soft note. The air bends slightly around it, like the sound is tugging at reality. You've heard him do that before.
Once he played a chord so lovely it made a stone giant fall in love with his own shadow. Long story. Ended with 3 avalanches and a new lake. Each of us has carried it once, he says. Or tried. Some gods forgot entirely. Others left pieces of themselves behind in the parchment. The message absorbs you frown, absorbs what names, choices, stories you. It doesn't deliver anything. It erases. That does it. You stand abruptly, then why give it to me again? Because you come back. You stop. You always come back, he says, voice low. No matter what it takes from you, that catches you sideways. The kind of truth that feels like someone opened a door you thought was locked from the inside. Quirky tidbit. In a little-known cult of Hermes based in Ephesus, followers believed the god didn't walk between worlds, he forgot his way into them. They trained for years to unlearn memory, hoping to slip between planes the way Hermes did. Most just got really good at losing their sandals. You look at the scroll again. I saw a woman, you say softly, a mortal. She had the scroll. Apollo looks out to the sea. Yes. Who was she? Someone you loved, he replies, in a life you don't remember. You swallow. Why would I forget her? Because her name is in the scroll. The sea crashes louder as if the tide itself recoiled from that sentence. You put it there, he adds, so no one else could ever speak it. Not even you. You stare at him. Why? Because if you remembered her, the loop would break, and the loop has to stay closed, or... He trails off, or what, he looks at you, genuinely afraid, or everything rewinds. You sit back down, slowly. The scroll hums louder now, almost like it's excited. Apollo sits beside you. You ask the question neither of you wants to say out loud. What if I open it all the way? He doesn't answer.
Instead, he strums one more chord, and the sound echoes across the sand, shaping into words that are barely sound at all. Then you won't be you anymore. You close your eyes. The wind settles, the sea stills, and somewhere deep inside the scroll, something waits. You don't sleep that night, which is a little ironic, considering you're a god and technically don't need sleep. But you've always enjoyed naps, the stolen kind, the midday kind, the oops. I drifted off in a sunbeam kind. You've napped in royal bed's temple rafters and once inside a hollow bronze bull meant for executions. Cozy, really. But tonight you just sit by the shore, feet buried in the cool sand scroll in hand like it might vanish if you blink too long. Apollo, left hours ago, no dramatic exits, just a soft look and a whispered, "Don't follow it too far," then gone dissolved into twilight like a memory that respects boundaries. You stare at the scroll again. It hasn't moved since sunset. No pulses, no songs, just a quiet blank roll of parchment nestled in your lap. And yet, you feel it watching you, not like it has eyes. No, it's more like the scroll is waiting for something, maybe for you to crack, maybe for you to choose. You sigh and say aloud, "You know, for something that doesn't speak, you're really good at getting under my skin." The scroll mercifully does not reply. You stand, stretch, brush sand off your robes. Time to try something really foolish. Again, you fly east toward a place that doesn't exist anymore. It used to be a shrine one of yours. You're not even sure which century it faded. Some remote hilltop in central Greece, a place where shepherds once whispered your name into stones and left honey on altars for safe travel. It's gone now, but your feet remember the path. As you land, you realize the scroll has started humming again, soft, purring almost, like a cat who knows it's about to do something very, very chaotic. You approach the ruins.
Nothing dramatic, just moss-covered steps and crumbling walls, the scent of time and wet limestone in the air. A single stone pillar remains intact, and on it your name once gleamed in gold. Now it's scratched out, erased. You feel something cold coil inside your chest, and that's when a voice behind you says, "I told them not to." You turn. A woman stands there, simple cloak, hair like night fog, eyes the colour of the Aegean before a storm. She looks mortal, except she isn't. You ask, "Do I know you?" She smiles bittersweet. "You used to. Were we in love?" She finishes. "Yes, briefly, deeply, before they made you forget." You step closer. "Who are you?" She steps into the moonlight. Suddenly your knees almost give out, because now you recognize her. Not her name, no, that's still lost, but her presence. She's the one from the memory, the woman with the scroll. "I gave it to you," she says softly. "Because I had to." You shake your head.
Why me? Because you could carry it and survive, and maybe one day deliver it. To whom? She looks up. To yourself. You laugh once, sharp, a little unhinged. You realize how insane this sounds, I know, she says. I've lived every version of it. You study her face. There's no anger there, just sorrow and something else. Hope you sealed your name into it, she says, to protect me, to protect us. And every time you get close to remembering, the loop resets. You step back. So what happens if I do remember your name? Her voice catches, then the scroll ends, and with it everything it changed, which is, well, she's quiet for a long time. Then she says history. Mainstream historians claim the Greeks had no concept of time loops, but a single scratched note from the temple of Dodona mentions the god who comes again with silence in hand. Scholars debate whether it refers to Hermes Dionysus or a storm god who got lost on his way to a wine tasting. You whisper, "What did we lose?" She says nothing, but a tear glides down her cheek. You look at the scroll. It's glowing again, not gold, not green, but silver. Silver like the light in her eyes. You hold it up. It doesn't tremble, it breathes. And somewhere beneath your skin, something ancient stirs. Not pain, not joy, just in recognition. You want to say her name. You don't know it yet, but it's curling at the edge of your tongue, like steam from a forgotten cup of tea. Almost warm, almost there. Your mouth feels it before your mind does. That's how memory works sometimes. It arrives backwards. She watches you with that soft, exhausted hope, the kind people wear after lifetimes of watching someone walk into the same wall over and over again, the look that says, maybe this time. You hold the scroll close to your chest. What happens if I say it? She lowers her gaze. It stops. You tilt your head. What exactly? The loop, the forgetting, the rewinding.
All of it. You study her face, and what do I lose? Her answer is soft, depends which version of you says it. And that's the part that makes your skin crawl. Not because you're scared, but because you know she's telling the truth. There's a version of you that said her name before, and lost something too big to fit into myth. You sit down on the old stone step. The scroll hums faintly like it's sleeping or dreaming or pretending to. So let me get this straight, you say, rubbing your temples. I'm carrying a scroll that contains your name, a name that if spoken ends a time loop caused by forgetting the message I was supposed to deliver, which is the name itself. She nods once. Essentially, you pause. Did I invent this? She smirks. You're a god of language and trickery. What do you think? I think I'd sue me for copyright infringement, you mutter. You glance toward the horizon where stars are starting to blink into existence. The night is warm, but your fingers feel cold against the scroll, like it's turning to frost in your hands the longer you hesitate. And then a memory hits you like a falling column. A field of tall grass, her laughter clear and bright as temple bells. A promise whispered into her hair. You said you'd carry her name to the ends of the earth. You said you'd never let it be erased. You lied, not on purpose, but still. You lied, and now you've been lying through lifetimes. Historians still argue whether the Greek gods experienced time as mortals do, or in loops echoes, or layered strands like twisted rope. One fringe theory suggests Hermes once wrote a message that looped itself through mortal calendars, causing entire decades to vanish from records. The missing time. That's what you're standing in now? You open the scroll again? This time, the silver shimmer doesn't swirl or retreat. It resolves into a shape, a name, no letters, just understanding.
And suddenly your heart hurts. Not in the stabbed with spear, bitten by monster kind of way, but in the remembering love too late kind of way. You stand up, walk to her. She doesn't move. You lift the scroll between you both, and softly, carefully, you whisper the name aloud. The air stills. No wind, no stars, no time. The name leaves your lips and the scroll bursts into light. Not fire, not destruction, just radiance, like it was never meant to contain her. The parchment curls into ashless white, dissolving like fog touched by sun. It fades gently like an old story, ending not in death but in peace. You stumble back, breathing hard. She's glowing, not divine, not goddess-like, just known, whole. She smiles. You did it! You wipe your eyes. What happens now? She steps forward. Now you remember all of it. And suddenly you do. Every version, every failure, every time you chose the scroll over her, every time you forgot her name.
And every time you carried it again, hoping somehow this time would be different. You fall to your knees. The truth is too heavy for even a messenger god. She kneels with you, takes your hand, and whispers, "You don't have to carry it anymore." You nod, trembling. The stars above you blink back on one by one, and for the first time in, or time you feel still. Quirky tidbit. According to an obscure vase painting, Hermes once tried to retire and open a bakery. He claimed he was tired of messages, meddling, and multiversal nonsense. The gods laughed. He burned the first batch of bread and turned the oven into a gateway to another timeline. So much for that. You rise, not lighter, not yet, but real. And when you turn, she's gone, not vanished, just released. The scroll is gone too, but the name it echoes quietly in your chest, steady and sacred, and you're finally moving forward. You're not used to silence like this.
Not the normal kind, the pleasant hush of midnight meadows or the calm of a well-earned nap. This is cosmic silence, a silence that feels earned after centuries of noise. It lingers around you like incense after a ritual, soft and scented with relief and maybe a little regret. You walk now, that's new. No flying, no vanishing into cloud form, no snapping into another plane with a wink and a pun. Just your feet on dirt like a mortal. The world feels more real now, not brighter, not heavier, just clearer. The wind brushes past your ears with no agenda. The cypress trees don't seem to whisper anymore. Even the birds give you a respectful distance as if they know what you just did. You say her name again, quietly, to yourself. It doesn't burn this time, it heals. You feel it settle into your ribs like a puzzle piece that finally remembered where it fits. You could stop here. Truly, you could walk into obscurity. Let the gods forget you.
Let the scroll remain dissolved in starlight. Open a quiet roadside shrine. Offer clever travel advice and slightly burned offerings to lost travelers. But no, because something's still wrong. You feel it in the soles of your feet. The scroll may be gone, but the loop isn't. Not entirely. Something remains, a trace, a spark, a breadcrumb trail that leads you not forward but sideways. You follow it, back toward a place that only exists when you need it to. A temple with no doors, no windows, no location, just presence. You enter, it's dim, dusty. You think you've been here before? Probably have. It smells like cedar smoke and forgotten rules. And in the center, a statue of you, but wrong. Not because the artist was bad, okay, the sandals are wildly inaccurate, but because the statue shows you holding the scroll. And you're smiling. That never happened. Not in any version you remember. And then a voice from behind you, clever, clever boy. You don't turn right away. You know that voice, smooth, mocking, and always 10 degrees more charming than it needs to be. You turn, and there you are again. Another you. This one looks fresh, polished. A version of you from a loop that hasn't broken yet. He twirls a scroll between 2 fingers like it weighs nothing. You frown. Haven't we done this already? He grins. Not this version, you're still carrying it. He shrugs. Someone has to. You stare at him. I just ended it. He smirks. You ended yours. Doesn't mean I'm not still delivering mine. You narrow your eyes. Why? Because that's the trick, isn't it? He says, pacing slowly. The message never ends. It just changes. Every time you deliver it, it adapts, shifts, finds a new host, a new form. You feel sick. So what now? He stops in front of the statue, places his version of the scroll at its base. Now I get to be the one who almost remembers, who almost finishes the loop, who almost gets to say the name. You whisper, and then it resets. He nods, and again you clutch your chest. But if that's true, then this message can't ever be delivered. He tilts his head. Maybe it's not meant to be. Mainstream mythologists often overlook the darker interpretations of Hermes' role. Yes, he's the god of messages, trade, and eloquence, but in certain regional texts, he's also called Hermes Psychopompus, the soul guide, not because he guides mortals to the afterlife, but because he guides gods through existential forgetting. You take a step back from your mirrored self. No, you say. Not this time. This version ends. He grins wider. You already said that. The temple ripples, the statue cracks, and the scroll at its base turns to ash again. You stand alone. No version, no statue, no scroll. Just your own breath, loud in the temple's silence. You walk outside. The stars are brighter now. Maybe it's morning. Maybe it's the end of something. Either way, you feel it. You're still you. And this time you remember, you stand at the temple's edge where the stone gives way to open sky. There's no path forward, no carved steps or divine signposts, just horizon. One enormous quiet invitation to choose. You close your eyes and let the breeze carry through you. It no longer feels ominous or heavy with hidden meanings. It's just wind again, ordinary, free. And for a moment, so are you. You whisper her name once more, and this time the world doesn't flicker. It breathes with you. Then behind you something stirs. Not danger, just curiosity. A voice, small and bright. Excuse me? Are you the messenger god? You turn. A mortal stands before you, young, wide-eyed, a little dusty from the road. Their sandals are unevenly laced, their tunic stained with olive oil and determination. They hold out a scroll, a normal scroll, no shimmer, no pulse, no ancient loops, just a message. From a friend to a brother, they explain. I was told to give it to someone who could get it there safely. You stare at it. A real, actual, mortal message. No riddles, no cosmic recursion, no traps masquerading as destiny. And for the first time in what feels like several eternities, you smile. Of course you say, kneeling to their height, I'm Hermes, this is what I do. The mortal beams, hands it over and darts off down the hill with the reckless confidence of someone who trusts the world to keep spinning. You turn the scroll in your hand. It's light, real, physical, the kind of message you can carry without losing your name. You slip it into your bag and lift off gently, the air supporting you like an old friend. You don't go far, just a short glide over the next valley. As you fly, you spot a shepherd herding goats with one hand while reciting a poem into the sky. A merchant caravan singing a song that hasn't been invented yet. A child drawing constellations into dirt. This is what you love most, the middle places, the in-betweens, where stories are still wet with meaning and gods and mortals breathe the same dust. You land near a grove just long enough to drink from a spring that tastes like pine and good memories. You press the scroll to your chest, just a simple scroll now, and close your eyes for a heartbeat. Historians still argue whether Hermes ever truly existed outside the message, whether he was God first or merely a function of what had to be moved, whispered, carried. But perhaps they say that's the point, that a messenger is the message. Not in what he delivers, but in how he returns. You fly again, the stars rise behind you, the message finds its way forward, not because it must, but because you choose to carry it. And this time you're not running from anything, you're flying toward it. You reach the town just as the sun begins to yawn over the rooftops. It's a sleepy little place, goat paths for streets, stone houses with vines curling up their flanks, and the kind of morning light that makes even cracked pottery look noble. You descend quietly, landing in an alley between two bakeries. The scent of baking figs and flour hugs your face. You forgot how much you love mornings like this. Carrying messages between mortals, actual mortals, is strangely soothing. No time loops, no scrolls with feelings, just people asking for help. Simple, beautiful chaos. You find the house easily. Low stone walls, a crooked door, and a chicken standing guard like it owns the deed. You knock. The door creaks open, and a middle-aged man with sun-stiff hands peers out, blinking at the winged figure on his step. He says nothing, just stares. You offer the scroll. From your brother in Thebes, his mouth opens, but no sound comes. Then all at once, his shoulders drop. He takes the scroll with a trembling hand and presses it to his chest. "Thank you," he whispers. And that's it. No divine drama, no cosmic secrets, just one brother thanking another for being alive. You nod, smile, and walk away. No need for fanfare. And yet, as you pass the edge of the village, something flickers at the corner of your vision. You freeze. There, on the wall of an abandoned shrine, your name. Not the one Olympus gave you, the real one. Just a single glyph etched into crumbling plaster, half faded from time and weather. And beneath it, a drawing. Two figures, you and her, hand in hand beneath a strange sky. No one else in this village could have made that. They wouldn't know what it meant. Most don't even pray to you anymore. You walk to the wall and press your fingers to the symbol. It hums, only once. A whisper of recognition. As if the scroll left a parting gift, or maybe it's her, maybe she remembers too. You take a breath. Then you walk away because the past is no longer hunting you. Not today. Quirky fact 1. Roman-era salt believed Hermes sometimes wandered the mortal world just to read graffiti. They'd inscribe secret prayers into walls, hoping he'd pass by and grant small favors. The only verified divine response, a doodle of a sandal with wings found on a column in Corinth. You return to the road. It's rutted and uneven, a path of real steps, not metaphors, not metaphysics. The sun climbs higher, and birds start their morning arguments in the olive branches overhead. A fox darts across your path, glances at you, and gives a short, unmistakable nod. You nod back, because of course it understands. As you walk, you think about all the versions of yourself that didn't get this far, the ones that forgot, the ones that gave up, the ones that opened the scroll too soon and fell into the loop again. You honor them, but you leave them behind, because this version of you have new work to do, not carrying memory, not bearing silence, just walking the world, answering small requests, helping it turn. You reach a crossroad. One sign points toward Delphi, another toward Athens, a third, it has no name, just a fresh carving, your name, not Hermes, the other one, the secret one. You smile, then you take that path, because that's who you are now, not just the messenger, but the one who remembers. The nameless path winds through hills too ancient to care what century it is. Wildflowers bloom without pattern, as if nature forgot its own design notes. You brush against time and something that smells suspiciously like ambrosia. The air is soft here, not light, not heavy, just content. And still beneath it all you feel the faintest tremble of something watching. Not the scroll, not the gods, but memory itself. You follow the path until it vanishes into a field of poppies. There's no trail anymore, just a vast sea of red nodding gently in the breeze, like 1,000 heads half asleep. And in the center, seated calmly with legs tucked under her, is a child. You stop short. She looks up at you. Her eyes are the same color as your dream from the shrine, the dream you keep trying not to call a memory. She smiles. I've been waiting. You approach slowly. Do I know you? She shrugs. Not yet, but you will. You crouch beside her. What's your name? She plucks a poppy and whispers it into the petals. You don't hear it with your ears. You feel it land in your chest like a bell dropped into a well. You nod. She stands and holds out her hand. You take it. And the field changes, not burns, not vanishes, just shifts. Now you're standing in a long hall filled with glass walls. Each one holds a moving scene, moments from your life, your loops, your missteps. One shows you falling through cloud as a scroll bursts into light. Another shows you laughing with Apollo beside a field of bees. Another shows you watching her disappear. You grip the child's hand tighter.
Where are we? She replies calmly. This is the archive of what didn't happen. You blink. That sounds like a problem. She nods. It is, but it's also a choice. You walk with her through the hall. Each glass panel vibrates slightly as you pass, like your presence stirs the not-quite memories inside. You see gods you no longer speak to, friends who were erased, versions of yourself who stayed too long or left too early. And at the very end, a door. It's made of no material you recognize. It feels like decision. The child stops. You can open it. You hesitate. What's behind it? She says either everything you forgot or everything you gave up. You look down at her. That's vague. She grins. I'm 5. Fair. You touch the door. It pulses once, and you remember something important, the very first thing you ever chose to forget. It wasn't a message. It wasn't a name. It was the idea that you could fail. That was the root of it all. You open the door
and step through. Historians still argue whether Hermes ever truly feared failure. Some say he embraced it, built his myths on it. Others insist he rewrote each tale to look like a trick, not a mistake. But in one ruined scroll found deep in Knossos, there's a single line scratched at the margin. He chose to fall so he could learn how to fly again. You find yourself on a mountaintop. No scroll, no child, just you, and a quiet sky filled with stars. You sit down on the cold stone and breathe deeply. For the first time in maybe ever, you're not waiting for the next twist. You're not wondering what part of you will be erased. You're simply here, whole. Quirky tidbit. Some philosophers once claimed that gods only exist because mortals keep remembering them. In one rare poem dedicated to Hermes, a single line is repeated 13 times. He stays because we do. You lie back and watch the stars. One of them flickers oddly. You smile. She always did love a dramatic exit. The mountain air is thin and tastes like pine needles, wind, and old decisions. You lie there on the stone, staring up at the stars, trying to guess which ones are real and which are memories dressed in light. You start counting constellations like you used to, Orion, Lyra, the 7 golden goats of Mount Ida. Not official, but you always liked that one. And as you watch, the sky doesn't just shimmer, it moves. Not the stars, but the stories behind them. Each one rearranges into something new. There's a name now, hers, carved subtly between constellations. Not in letters, not in light, but in absence. The way a whisper shapes a room just by being not there. You close your eyes. When you open them again, you're not on the mountain anymore. You're in a workshop, not yours. Hers. You recognize the details immediately. Shelves crammed with scrolls and trinkets, jars full of dried herbs, and bits of old meteorite maps made of stitched leaves. The air smells like cedar smoke and that odd little lavender soap she always used on your cloak when you forgot to wash it for 3 centuries. She steps into view without fanfare, no glowing, no mystery, just her. Wearing the same crooked smile she wore the first time you met, standing barefoot in a thunderstorm, cursing the gods in 3 languages and a dialect only cicadas understood. You don't speak, you just look at each other. Then she walks over and hands you a scroll. Just like that. It's plain, rough parchment, tied with a red ribbon. You hesitate. I thought I was done carrying messages, you say. She nods. You are. Then why hand you one? You untie it carefully. Inside a single line, scrawled in messy handwriting.
Now that you remember, what will you carry? You look up, but she's already moved to the window, gazing out at something you can't see. You study the message again. No tricks, no riddles, just a real question. And the answer rises in you like dawn. You walk to her, stand beside her. Together you watch as the stars shift again, this time, settling into constellations no one's named yet. She glances at you. You could name one you know. You smile. Only if I can name it after a mistake. Those are the best kind. And you know she's right. Mainstream mythology never told what Hermes did after the scroll. Most stories end with him racing away, cackling through Olympus like he just stole everyone's socks. But there's a quiet legend, barely remembered, in which Hermes becomes the keeper of lost choices. Not to judge them, not to fix them, just to carry them gently. You sit beside her in the workshop and she pours you tea. You sip. It tastes like rosemary and thunder.
So she asks, what will you carry now? You think for a moment and then say lighter things, honest things, small joys. She nods, pleased. Outside, a storm begins to build, not violent, not angry, just the kind of weather that waters seeds and clears the air. Quirky tidbit. One Greek village still holds a yearly festival to Hermes, not for travel or trickery, but to honor what we almost forgot. They hang ribbons from trees with words that no longer have meaning, and they sing to the sky as if it can still hear. You stay with her until the storm passes, then you rise. She walks you to the door. Will I see you again, you ask. Her grin widens. You always do. You step outside. And this time you don't fly. You walk, and every step feels like something new, beginning. You walk for hours, not because you're lost, but because you finally can. For the first time in an eternity, there's no destination screaming at your heels.
No scroll humming like a time bomb tucked beneath your ribs. Just you, the road, and the sound of cicadas arguing with the moon. The ground is warm beneath your sandals. Each pebble feels real, unenchanted, uneventful, glorious. The stars above keep shifting, still playful from their earlier rearrangement. One forms what might be your face for a moment, then collapses into a goat doing a backflip. You don't mind. The cosmos can be silly when it wants. You've earned a little silliness. You pass a river with water so still it looks like black glass. You pause to look into it, and you don't flinch, because this time the face looking back isn't haunted, it's yours. No extroversions, no tired reflections with cracked smiles and secrets in their eyes. Just you. Still Hermes. But more than that, you sit by the bank, drawing symbols in the mud with a stick. Not divine glyphs or reality-altering runes, Just doodles. One looks like a chicken in sandals.
Another like a lyre trying to play itself. You laugh, and from the reeds someone joins you, not her, someone else. A mortal boy barefoot with a bundle of scrolls under one arm and ink smudged on his nose. He stops when he sees you. "Are you?" he begins. You shake your head gently. "No autographs?" He blinks, then grins. "I heard stories. You help messages get where they're going. Sometimes you reply." He sits beside you, pulling a scroll from his bundle. "I wrote this for my sister. She died 2 winters ago. I never got to say goodbye." You take the scroll carefully, and it doesn't hum, doesn't glow. It waits. A real message made of love, not loops. You nod. "I'll carry it." The boy exhales. "Thank you." He lingers for a moment, then skips away his sandals, slapping the earth in offbeat joy. You look down at the scroll, then up at the moon. You whisper. You seeing this, the moon says nothing, but you're pretty sure it's smiling. Historians still debate whether Hermes truly guided souls to the underworld or if he simply sat with them when they were too afraid to go alone. One obscure inscription reads, "He carried what we could not say and laid it gently at the feet of silence." You rise. And for the first time since you opened that cursed scroll, since you saw yourself reflected in futures you couldn't bear, you carry a message with joy. You don't need wings for this one. The road ahead is clear. As you walk, you pass an old olive tree, its trunk bent like an old man hunched in thought. You press your hand to it and feel warmth rise into your palm. Not magic, just memory. Inside the tree's bark, carved in faint lines, is a phrase you remembered. That was enough. You nod to the tree. "Tell the others I'm okay." The tree doesn't answer, but a breeze stirs its branches, soft and approving. Quirky fact. In the oldest fragments of Orphic hymns, Hermes is never named directly. Instead, he's referred to only as the one who moves gently through forgetting. Scholars think it's metaphor. You know better. You keep walking. There will be more scrolls, more messages, more names whispered in the dark, but from now on you choose what you carry. And what you finally set down, you walk into the next village just as dawn decides to peek over the horizon, half shy, half curious. It paints the sky in lazy streaks of apricot and rose, like the gods are still warming up their brushes, the kind of morning that doesn't rush you, the kind that waits until you're ready. The boy's scroll is still in your hand. You haven't opened it. You don't need to. You already know what it contains: love, written too late, grief that doesn't ask for fixing, and the quiet hope that someone, anyone, might carry it the rest of the way. So you do. You leave it at the village's tiny shrine, not even dedicated to you. No fanfare, just a low stone bench and a carved sun disk half worn from years of weather and whispered wishes. You place the scroll gently at the base and say nothing. Some messages don't need to be delivered, just released. You stretch your arms overhead. Your joints pop in a way that feels mortal. You grin. There's something addictive about this version of existence. Simpler. No thrones, no thunderbolts. You stroll into the square hoping for bread and get distracted by a loud argument between 2 old men about whether figs should ever be baked in goat cheese. You pause to offer your unsolicited opinion only if you want your enemies to come back for dinner, and one of them laughs so hard he gives you a fig anyway. You bite into it. It's perfect. Sticky, sweet, sun-warmed. As you sit on a low wall and watch the village stir to life, You feel it again, that strange pull. Not from the scroll, that's long gone. This one's different, familiar, playful. You tilt your head and scan the rooftops. They're just past the blacksmith shop. A shadow moves, too quick for a mortal, too quiet for a bird. You don't chase it, not yet. Instead, you toss the fig pit toward a rooster who seems offended, but not enough to squawk. Then you rise and follow the shadow. Past the goats, past the bakery. You make a mental note to stop there later. And finally, into a narrow alley you're certain wasn't there a moment ago. At the end of it, a figure. Winged sandals, tilted grin. Same eyes, another you. This one looks younger, fresher, like someone who hasn't broken the loop yet. You. Sigh. Really? The other you raises both hands. Hey, I'm not here to restart anything. You squint, then why are you here? He steps forward and holds something out. A scroll. You groan. Absolutely not. It's not that scroll, he says quickly. This one's different. You don't move, so he tosses it to you. You catch it reflexively. It's light. Untouched. Blank. You look up. What's in it? He shrugs. That's the fun part. You get to decide. You roll your eyes. That's a dangerous thing to give a god like me. He smirks. Exactly. Then he vanishes. No flash, no drama. Just gone. You stare at the scroll. It doesn't pulse, doesn't hum. It just is. A true blank. And suddenly a strange question blooms in your mind if you weren't carrying anyone else's message. What story would you write? Historians still debate whether Hermes ever created stories or just passed them along. Some believe he invented fiction itself. Others insist he simply found the right lie at the right time and dressed it in just enough truth to taste like memory. You sit back on the alley steps, flip the scroll open and press the edge of your thumb into the parchment. A faint line appears, the beginning of a word. Your word, not Zeus's, not Fate's, not even hers. Yours. You take a deep breath and start writing. You write slowly at first, not because you don't know what to say, but because this is the first time in countless cycles that the words are yours, not borrowed, not delivered, not echoing someone else's desire. Just yours. The scroll sits on your knees, balanced like a sleeping cat, curling at the edges from the warmth of your hands. Each letter you press into the parchment feels like a step forward into new terrain, not divine, not mortal, something between. At first you write nonsense, a limerick about an octopus who stole sandals from Poseidon, then a recipe for fig-stuffed figs. You're still thinking about that breakfast argument. But slowly the words settle, deepen. You start to write a story, not of gods, not of epic wars, not even a trickery. You write about a boy who carried messages for people who forgot how to speak, about how the boy learned to listen to what wasn't said, about how the hardest message he ever carried was his own name. You write and write until your fingers smudge the ink and the scroll grows heavy with the weight of meaning. And somewhere in the ink, in the gentle curl of your lettering, she appears. Not as a ghost, not as a warning, just as herself. In one line, she's laughing. In the next, she's vanishing into fog. You don't try to stop it. You just write her the way you remember flawed, brilliant, a little sarcastic. The way she was before memory made her holy. You're not writing to change the past. You're writing to keep it, to keep her. Historians still argue whether Hermes ever loved anyone. There's no consensus. Some say he was too fast to fall, too fleeting to commit. But one fragment found in a Mycenaean grave reads, "He ran not because he could not stay. He ran because he remembered what waiting cost her. You put the stylus down, your scroll is full, and this time it doesn't glow, it doesn't pulse, it rests, quiet, complete. You hold it to your chest and close your eyes. The alley breathes. When you open them again, the wall in front of you has changed. Etched into the stone are symbols, familiar, not Greek, not divine, but the symbols of your own writing. You didn't carve them, they appeared, because you finally stopped trying to forget and chose to remember on your own terms. A soft voice floats behind you. I thought you'd stopped writing. You turn, it's not her, but it's someone like her. Another memory, maybe, another chance. She carries a scroll in her hands. Would you carry this for me? She asks. You smile. Not this time. She nods, then sits beside you and starts to write her own. You lean back against the stone, watching the sky shift from pink to pale blue, wondering how many more scrolls are out there, half-written, unopened, lost under pillows, or tucked into robes. You think maybe the message was never about delivery. Maybe it was always about witness. Quirky Tidbit A, now destroyed statue, once stood in Delphi, showing Hermes seated with a blank scroll on his lap, his face soft in thought. The inscription read, "Even the fastest gods must one day stop and read what they've become." You fold your scroll, tie it with a fresh ribbon, tuck it beneath your cloak, not to deliver, not to hide, but to keep. You rise, stretch, and offer your new friend your hand. Walk with me, she nods, and together you leave the alley. No shadows chase you, no versions trail behind, just the quiet sound of your own footsteps returning to the world you finally chose to stay in. The road curves lazily down into a valley you've passed 1,000 times but never truly noticed. This time it's different. The trees wave as you pass, not magically, not because they recognize you as a god, but as if they're glad you're walking again. There's a rhythm to it now. Your steps feel tuned to the earth, no longer floating above it like an untouchable breeze. Your companion walks beside you in silence, not awkward, not heavy, just present. The way true conversation often begins before any words are spoken. You glance at her scroll. She clutches it gently as if it's fragile and important at once. What will you do with it, you ask? She thinks. I might deliver it, or I might bury it. Depends how brave I feel tomorrow. You nod. That's fair. The path winds past a crumbling aqueduct, its stones half swallowed by ivy. Water still trickles through it because the world is stubborn about remembering what works. You pause to dip your fingers in the flow. It's cold, honest, real. You look at your reflection. Still you're still whole. Still remembering. For a moment you're not Hermes the messenger. You're just someone who once lost a name and earned it back, not by chasing prophecy or fate, but by choosing to stay put. A child darts out from a nearby olive grove, laughing, clutching a stick like it's a sword. He pauses when he sees you. Are you a traveller? He asks. You kneel. Something like that. He grins, missing 2 front teeth. Want to see where the river hides? You glance at your companion. She shrugs playfully. Why not, you say? He leads you both into a thicket where the water carves a narrow path under a rock, just enough for a small creature or an idea to squeeze through. This is the secret place, the boy says. Only people who don't rush can see it. You chuckle. Then, I guess I've earned it. Historians rarely mention Hermes as a teacher, but in obscure Anatolian texts, he's described as he who stops just long enough. Not the god of answers, but the one who shows mortals how to sit with their questions. You sit on a flat rock near the hidden stream while the child chases bees and your companion adds another line to her scroll. What if this is the point you ask aloud? She looks up. What if the message was never about the end or the gods, or memory? What if it's just this? She raises an eyebrow. What goat herders and fig thieves? You smile, and olive trees and quiet streams and lost names that don't need to be found again. She leans back against a tree. Then I'd say we wasted a few thousand years getting here. You shrug. We're gods. We're slow learners. The child returns, panting. Did you see it? You nod. We did. He beams, then sprints off again. No destination, just joy. You rise, brush dirt from your cloak, and glance down at your scroll again. Still blank, still waiting. And you realize that's okay. Some scrolls aren't meant to be written all at once. Some are meant to unfold slowly, line by line, moment by moment. You look to the horizon. The day is warm now, the kind of warmth that makes you forget you ever ran from anything. Quirky tidbit. In one surviving Roman play, Hermes appears not as a trickster, but as an old man who tells stories to children by drawing symbols in sand. When asked what message he's delivering, he replies, "The one that begins when the listener smiles." You smile now because the loop is broken and the road ahead isn't marked. But for once, that's not terrifying. It's freeing. You sling the scroll under your arm and walk on. No wings, no riddles, just footsteps. By midday, the sun climbs overhead like it's checking in on you, just a casual nod from Olympus. No drama. You don't shield your eyes. You meet the warmth and squint back like an old friend you haven't argued with in a while. Your companion peels off from the path to gather wild mint near a cluster of bees, who thankfully decide diplomacy is more fun than stinging a goddess-adjacent herb picker. You sit beneath an old fig tree, the kind that's seen dynasties rise, and sandal straps break mid-journey. The breeze rustles through the branches with no hidden messages, just rustling. You roll the scroll out on your lap, not to write, not yet, but to look at the blankness. It's no longer intimidating. In fact, it looks inviting, like silence after a symphony, like a fresh page in a mortal's journal the morning after the war ends. You pluck a leaf from overhead, tear it absent-mindedly. What did I use to carry, you ask? Your companion doesn't answer immediately. She sprinkles the mint into a water skin and gives it a shake. You carried speed, wit, illusions. You nod. And what do I carry now? She looks at you with that curious smile. Patience. You scoff. Me, you didn't even interrupt me just now. That's growth. You both laugh. A flock of starlings wheels overhead in a shape that almost looks like a spiral. You recognize the pattern from one of your oldest roots, an old mortal way of telling time by birds. You lie back in the grass. You murmur, I thought breaking the loop would feel more cosmic, apocalyptic maybe. Lots of thunder. She shrugs. Sometimes the quietest moment is the one that wins. You glance sideways at her. You going to write that on your scroll? Maybe. Or maybe I'll draw a goat doing yoga. You both dissolve into another round of laughter. Quirky tidbit. A fragment of an unpublished Platonic dialogue features Hermes debating a philosopher about the nature of endings. The philosopher insists all stories must have one. Hermes replies, not all. Some are just places we decide to stop walking and look around. You close your eyes, let the moment sit, not to freeze it, just to feel it. The warmth of the earth beneath you, the breeze at your cheek, the soft creak of the tree's limbs above. And for once no pull, no hum, No whisper behind the eyelids, just presence. You sit up, dust your tunic, and pick up the scroll.
I think you say I'm ready to write something new about what she asks. You grin. About now. Not about memory. Not about forgotten names or divine misdirection. Just now. And you begin. This is the part of the story where nothing happens. And that is why it matters. You pause, reread it. Then write another line, because for once I'm not delivering the ending, I'm living the middle. She peers over your shoulder. That's pretty good. You tilt your head. I've had practice. You both laugh again, quieter this time. A laugh meant for the shadows between olive trees and sleepy streams. The fig tree drops one soft fruit into your palm. You eat it without ceremony. It tastes like sunlight and stories yet to come. Then the scroll folds itself closed, not magically, just ready. And you tie it with a ribbon the colour of morning.
By evening, the sky has turned a syrupy gold drizzled with streaks of amber and slow-moving clouds that look like they've been napping all day. You and your companion walk quietly along a ridge path that overlooks a patchwork of fields, wheat barley, and olive groves, so ancient they probably remember your earliest lies. You've stopped hurrying. Every once in a while, your companion pauses to sketch something on the back of her scroll. A goat with too many teeth. A tree that looks like it's doing a polite curtsy. A sandal with wings and a little heart. You don't comment, but you smile each time. At the next bend, you see a stone bench with no name. It's placed beneath an arched tree, clearly not by accident. You gesture to it like a maitre d', shall we? She sits with a sigh, stretching out like she's made of sunlight and worn sandals. You settle in beside her. Neither of you speaks for a long time.
Until she says softly, "Do you think you'll ever go back?" You know what she means. Not just Olympus, but the old self, the old role, the old urge to fly without knowing why. You rest your elbows on your knees, watching the shadows stretch like cats across the valley. I think I'll always have wings, but I don't think I need to use them every time something whispers. She nods. That's harder than it sounds. Yeah, you say. Turns out stillness is the one terrain we gods never mapped. The bench creaks faintly beneath you as if approving the sentiment. And then, on the breeze, something tickles your ear. Not a scroll's pulse, not divine interference, just a song, faint from the valley below. A group of travellers walking a dusty path singing a hymn to no one in particular. The tune is ancient, the kind passed down through too many mouths to remember the first one. And in the chorus, your name. Not shouted, not glorified, just included, as if they trust you to hear it. You smile and the ache that's lived in your ribs for centuries begins to unravel thread by thread. Historians still debate whether Hermes was loved or merely tolerated. Some say he was too unpredictable, too slippery, too playful with pain. But others insist he was beloved by those who never asked him to be perfect, only present. Your companion leans her head on your shoulder. No ceremony, no deeper meaning, just comfort. You tilt your head to rest against hers. I used to think I was fast because I had to be, you murmur, and now I think I was fast because I was afraid. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't need to. You both sit until the hymn fades into the hush of dusk. Then she straightens. One more village before night. You stand, stretch, and offer your arm. She loops hers through it. Let's walk slow, she says. I want this part to last.
Quirky. Tidbit. On one long-lost scroll, supposedly authored by Hermes himself, a note was found in the margin. Some messages are just walks disguised as purpose. The scroll disintegrated shortly after being read, but the note lingered, passed from tongue to tongue like a prayer. You begin down the slope, your scroll secure beneath your cloak, her laughter tucked neatly beside you like a second heartbeat. For once, you're not racing toward a god, or away from a memory, or between one fading truth and the next. You're simply walking, and that's enough. The road leads you into a village where the air smells like cooked onions and grape leaves, and the houses are the color of butter and patience. The people here don't recognize you, which is refreshing. No bowing, no gasps. Just a friendly nod from a shepherd with a limp and a wave from a girl balancing a basket on her head like it's second nature. You stroll through the market with your companion at your side, the two of you dodging loaves of bread and stray chickens with the precision of seasoned wanderers. It's not heroic, it's not mythic, it's pleasant. You pass a storyteller sitting cross-legged on a woven rug, children gathered around her like petals. She's telling a tale about a fox who tricked a storm into falling in love with a tree. You pause, listen, and realize she's stolen your cadence, that sing-song trickster rhythm. You're flattered honestly. When the tale ends, the children scatter with giggles and muddy feet, and the storyteller looks up at you. She squints, then smiles knowingly. Not like she recognizes you, but like she knows you. She pats the rug. Sit, share a story. You and your companion glance at each other. Should I tell one, you ask her. Only if it ends well, she says, eyebrow raised. So you sit. You clear your throat and begin softly. Once there was a message so quiet that it could only be heard when you forgot what you were listening for. And just like that, the world slows again. The villagers gather around, not in awe, not because they suspect you're divine, just because stories are firelight and you speak like someone who's been burned but still learned to dance. You tell them a version of your tale, edited, of course. No time loops, no name-erasing scrolls, just a messenger who forgot where he was going and remembered who he was instead. A tale about choosing to stay still, about writing your own message after carrying everyone else's for far too long. The crowd is quiet when you finish, then slowly they clap. Not the polite kind, the honest kind. Your companion leans in, you're getting soft. You grin. I'm evolving. She elbows you gently. Same thing. The storyteller hands you a scroll from her basket. This is blank, you say. She winks.
I know, I thought you'd like the symbolism. You tuck it under your cloak. One more scroll, not for carrying, just for holding. Later, as twilight turns, the village, violet and gold, someone brings wine, someone else brings music. And somehow, you and your companion end up dancing beneath a string of lanterns that weren't there a moment ago. You forget to keep track of time. You forget to guard your thoughts. You just exist. Historians still debate whether Hermes ever settled down. One legend says he once stayed in a village for so long that he forgot he was divine, grew a beard, and became the town's most sarcastic carpenter. When asked what happened to the messenger, god villagers replied, "Oh, he still runs, just his mouth." The night deepens. You sit at the edge of the celebration, watching candlelight flicker across your scroll. You pull it out, glance at it, still blank. You smile and write one line, "I was never the message."
I was the pause between messages, the breath that made room for meaning. Then you fold it again. Your companion returns with figs and a stolen flower crown. She puts it on your head without asking. You let her. The music starts again, and this time you don't resist the rhythm. You stand, you dance, and you let the world remember you kindly. Morning finds you on a rooftop, sandals kicked off toes, dangling over the edge as the village wakes beneath you. You're not sure whose house this is. No one's complained, so you figure you're welcome, or at least amusing enough not to chase off just yet. Your companion sleeps below, curled up in a hammock made from old fishing nets and divine indifference. You hear her snoring faintly, like a cat who's stolen secrets instead of milk. You unfurl your scroll again, still blank. One line, yesterday's thought, stares back at you. You trace it with your thumb, not to erase it, just to feel the groove it left. Then you write another. When I stop running, the message, stop chasing. You don't add more. 2 lines is enough for now. You tuck the scroll away as the baker's boy begins shouting about bread, loud enough to shame the sun into rising faster. You laugh softly to yourself. The world is so loud when it's alive, and yet somehow it doesn't feel overwhelming anymore. You descend the side of the building with the grace of someone who's done this too many times to make a scene. You land beside a goat who looks mildly impressed. Your companion is awake now, sitting on a barrel, braiding her hair with little sprigs of thyme. She tosses you a warm roll without looking. You catch it. You know you say between bites, this whole being still thing, I might get used to it. She smirks. Careful. Next thing you know, you'll be filing taxes. You shudder. Don't curse me. You leave the village without fanfare. A wave here, a nod there. Someone tries to hand you a message to deliver, but you gently decline. Not today, you say. Today I'm writing my own. The road is soft beneath your feet. Grass pokes through the stones like it's trying to retell the path in green. The hills open into a meadow that feels familiar, though you've never walked here in this particular life. The kind of place where old thoughts come to stretch and warm themselves in the sun. And in the middle of the field, you see it, a tree, not just any tree, that tree, the one from the dream, from the loop, from the name you buried. It's different now, grown, blooming, not a scarred memory anymore, but something living. You walk to it, sit beneath it, and wait, not for a message, not for her, just for whatever arrives. Historians still argue whether Hermes was a god of waiting. Most think of him in motion, fast feet, faster lies. But one scrap of early poetry speaks of the messenger who stopped beneath a tree and let the world catch up to him. A bee lands on your knee. You don't brush it off. Your companion arrives with 2 handfuls of stolen grapes and a poem she wrote on the back of a fish wrapper. She reads it aloud without embarrassment. It's terrible. You applaud anyway. You spend the day like that, half gods, half wanderers. No loops, no tasks, no scrolls humming in your bones. Just the quiet unfolding of a moment that doesn't want to be anything other than itself. Later, as the stars peer down like curious children, you write one more line on your scroll. Maybe this is the delivery, quirky tidbit in a rare Athenian folktale. Hermes is described not as a god at all, but as a story that walked too far and became self-aware. The moral of the tale, even stories get tired. Let them rest in the grass sometimes. You lie back. Let the earth cradle your thoughts, and for the first time in all your miles, you fall asleep without dreaming. You wake slowly like a scroll unfurling in reverse. Not to the sound of thunder or divine summons, just birds. Ordinary, unapologetically off-key birds who clearly haven't read the scroll on how to greet a sleeping god gently. You don't mind. The tree you slept beneath rustles with morning stories. Dew clings to your tunic, and a bit of bark has decided to imprint itself onto your cheek. You sit up, groggy but peaceful. There's a kind of stillness in your chest that used to terrify you. Now it feels like the start of a song. Your companion is already up balancing on a log across the nearby stream arms, wide sandals forgotten in the grass. She looks younger today, or maybe you're just seeing more clearly. You stretch, yawn, and check your scroll. Still there. Still yours. No humming, no glowing. Just ink and breath and soft folds where the paper creased itself while you slept. You write another line. No one's waiting anymore. I can walk at my own pace. It hits harder than you expected. You were always racing somewhere, even when you didn't know where. Even when Olympus had long stopped calling. Even when you had no scroll, you carried the momentum of obligation like a second spine. But now you're choosing your direction. Every step, every word, you join her at the stream. She hops off the log and offers you a flat rock, smooth as forgiveness. You ready to keep going, she asks. You nod, always. She quirks an eyebrow. That still sounds like old you talking. You grin. Old habits, I'll rewire them. She takes your hand, and you both follow the stream, letting it choose the path for now. Sometimes the best roads are borrowed. You pass a small shrine by the water, half submerged in moss. A toad squats where a statue of Hera's nose used to be. Someone's carved a new face over the old one.
It looks suspiciously like yours, though with much worse hair. You don't correct it. You leave a coin anyway. Farther along the trail, you come upon a group of travelers resting beneath a fig tree. They offer wine, you accept. They ask if you've heard of Hermes, the messenger god. You tilt your head, maybe. What's he up to these days? One woman replies. They say he disappeared, carried a message too big, lost his name. Another shrugs. Or maybe he turned into a mortal and forgot how to run. You sip the wine. Maybe he just started walking, you say. They laugh and the conversation drifts on. No one asks your name. You don't offer it. That's the beautiful thing about being remembered in stories. You don't have to carry your title everywhere. You can rest inside the echo. Later, you and your companion sit by a tree stump, carving symbols into bark, just because it feels good to leave something behind. Not a monument, just proof of being here.
You draw a line, then a curve, then your name. The real one hidden in the shape of a cloud. She draws a goat wearing a crown. Symbolic, you ask. She grins. Or hungry. Quirky tidbit. Some temples once taught that Hermes wasn't one god, but thousands each version, born every time someone changed their path at the last minute. The fork in the road, that was him. Not choosing for you, just being there when you chose. The sun dips low. Your scroll is heavier now, not with magic, but with pages. A story forming. Yours. Not written for Olympus, not bound to any loop. A scroll that stays with you even when unread. You find a soft patch of moss as the sky deepens into dusk. You lie down again, arms behind your head, companion beside you, both of you quiet. The stars blink on, slow and shy. You don't say her name. You don't need to. You remember, and that's enough. The stars above you shimmer like they're catching their breath between verses. You lie on your back scroll, tucked beneath your head, as the wind drifts through the tall grass with the hush of a storyteller, deciding whether to end the tale or let it wander a little longer. Your companion hums a tune, old and off-key, something between a lullaby and a sea shanty. You don't know the words. Maybe there are none. Maybe it's just how she says goodnight to the world. The moon climbs higher. It's not watching you anymore. It's just there, a silver stone with no agenda. That in itself feels revolutionary. You sit up, take out the scroll one last time. No glow, no hum, just the gentle rustle of paper touched by dusk. And in that moment you realize you're done. Not with walking, not with writing, but with carrying. This scroll isn't a task, it's a witness. You add your final line. The message was never what I delivered, it was how I chose to carry myself when no one was looking. You roll it slowly. Tie it with the same ribbon, the one that's frayed, now stained from rain and fig juice and maybe a little magic. Your companion watches you. You going to bury it? She asks. You shake your head? No. You place it gently beside a crooked stone at the base of the tree, not to hide it, not to enshrine it, just to leave it. You whisper something, not a spell, not a prayer, just thanks, and then you walk away. No wings, no flash, just footsteps. Historians won't record what happens next. There are no temples built for stories that end quietly. No hymns sung for gods who choose to set their burdens down. But perhaps someone will find the scroll someday, not in a temple, not in a vault, just under a tree where the moss remembers laughter and the bark knows how to hold a secret. And perhaps they'll read it, not because they were told to, but because they were ready.
You and your companion walk until dawn threatens the sky again, gold beginning to peek around the edges like a child playing hide and seek. She asks, "So, what now?" You smile. "Now we live." Quirky tidbit. In one vanished version of the Homeric hymns, the last line of Hermes' entry reads, "And then he vanished not into the sky, but into a story no one needed to hear, because they were already living it." You find another village, or it finds you. It's hard to say when you've stopped looking for destinations and started letting them arrive. You settle there for a while, telling stories, fixing sandals, carving odd shapes into the side of a well just to see if anyone notices. And when someone needs a message carried, you listen first. Then sometimes you accept, because the trick isn't delivering the scroll, it's knowing which ones not to carry. One evening, a child asks who you are. You smile and say, "No one important." The child squints.
You sound like someone from a story. You wink. We all are. And the scroll, it stays beneath the tree, unread by the world, but not forgotten, not this time. You lie down now wherever you are, maybe in bed, maybe just in your own quiet thoughts. The sky has gone soft with stars. The journey, long though it was, has let you arrive not at an ending, but a gentle middle. You feel your breathing slow, no scroll in your hands, no names to remember, no loops to outrun, just your chest rising and falling. The grass beneath your thoughts, the hush of the world holding its breath, not in fear, but in rest. Hermes, the trickster, the runner, the restless, is finally still. And you, listener, are here with him, not chasing, not delivering, just being. Let the stories that tug at you drift into the night. Let the names you've forgotten stay kindly forgotten. Let the scroll remain unopened, because maybe it's not meant to be read at all. Maybe it's enough to carry your own breath like a message, to live your days not with haste, but with wonder, Tonight the journey ends not in triumph or revelation, but in peace. And sometimes that's the most divine ending of all. You are safe, you are remembered, and you are free to sleep now. Let the winds go quiet, let the stars dim gently, let go of the scroll. Close your eyes and rest. End of script. Sweet dreams.